Greetings and welcome to In-Depth. I'm Dike Rostant. We continue the focus on agriculture and food security, but we do so through the lens of trade and industry with Senator Paula Gopee-Scoon, Minister of Trade and Industry. We just came out of the Agri Expo. What was your perspective of the event? And I'm very happy to be talking about this sort of thing with you and leaning on your expertise in trade and investment.
Good. So the numbers are very telling that the government produced an event which was quite successful. When one looks at the fact that you had more than 330 booth spaces with about 300 booths, in addition to which you had 200 farmers, and they were working in shifts 75 per day, and in addition to the livestock which was there, but then the public, we had close to 30,000 persons visiting over a 3-day period, and in fact to over 2.5 days, because on Friday we would have started after the forum perhaps at about 2 o'clock, and people were just waiting to come in for 2.5 days, 30,000 people. Quite exciting, very good comments and good feedback, very good exposure. And so I can see from the numbers is also for the forum, we had about 800 people attending the Agri Forum, and perhaps representatives from every island, every state, every member state within CARICOM, with about probably 8 heads visiting and being at the forum, some of them speaking at the forum. So from all counts, a huge success for both events, the Agri Investment Forum and also the Expo.
And with that in mind, I want to ask, what's the significance to you of seeing so many regional brothers and sisters visiting an event like this, including heads of these various jurisdictions, in addition to the role of Export TT in facilitating these B2B meetings?
So the role of let's go back to CARICOM. The importance of CARICOM is because this is a CARICOM initiative, but it was the second Expo and Agri Investment and Agri exhibition, which took place after Guyana's. I think it was held in May of this year. And the presence of the heads will, of course, tell the commitment of all leaders towards the overall perspective of reducing the food import bill by 25% by the year 2025. That's the commitment that we have at the highest levels, and also present would have been the private sector. And these are the individuals and the entities that we want to be focused on investing in agriculture and in agro-processing, if it is that we are truly going to realize this over the next few years, the 25 by 25. Now, you asked, I want to just expand a little bit on the private sector, because you realize that at the forum, there would have been the signing of a memorandum of understanding by the private sector, with namely the Caribbean Manufacturers Association, the Caribbean Supermarket Association, the Caribbean Agribusiness Association, and this is in addition to the involvement of the CARICOM private sector organization. And what does that say is that the private sector has an integral role into the theme, which is transforming agriculture through innovation and investment. So they're crucial to investment if we are to realize the goals of 25 by 25. And then you went on to talk about Export TT. Export TT and Invest TT were very involved, and we took a secondary role. As you know, this was a forum and an expo, and we thought, well, why not have the space, create a space for business-to-business meetings? And whilst usually business-to-business meetings would be held if there's a trade mission, we thought through the presence of so many officials and the private sector and our MSMEs, we thought, let's create a space. And we were able to have, over the 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, 50 50 meetings, which was really very good for something that was not, which was sort of ad hoc and on the periphery, but they played a key role. And indeed, they do have a key role to play as we seek to realize investors, extra-regional and regional and local investors into the agriculture, into this perspective, and also from the exportee in ensuring that our goods are exported out of Trinidad, or agricultural products. But not only that, also along the agriculture value chain, or all of our agro-processing goods, and also our manufactured goods as well along the agriculture value chain. Because if you're going to realize the, again, the 25 by 25, it simply cannot be about, you simply would not be satisfying our needs with just producing, with just primary production. In other words, all of the vegetables and meats, etc. You also have to transform, and transforming around the value chain, create an opportunity for investment, and that is through agro-processing and even further along manufacturing, and creating a lot of interest as well in warehousing and distribution, and of course, creating employment right along the value chain.
And you talk about the value chain like that, Minister, and I get excited because I think sometimes we separate, we create these false senses of isolation. So agriculture is agriculture, investment and trade is investment and trade. So when there's a glut on the market, you try to get as much as you can, or what can you do with it? How do we transform? How do we build into what it is we're already doing, as opposed to saying, okay, well, it's either feast or famine? But I also appreciate the fact that these meetings were held so that they can kind of formalize some of the relationships that we have. Because this reminds me of the example of, you go to a craft shop, you go to a pop-up market, and you see someone, you see something, and they have an item or an offering that you really like. And then you ask, how can I get on to you? And you need to wait for the next thing that takes place, where you may find them or you may not. But being able to have these business-to-business meetings and formalize some of these possibilities. And with that in mind, you spoke about Guyana. Give us a little history, a little context, thank you, of the trade history, the history of trade relations that we've had between our jurisdictions, Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago, and that foundation that we're trying to build on.
But let me just say that we've always been closely associated, because by distance to start with, but our relations have always been friendly. We were one of the earlier members of the treaty, for the signing of the Treaty of Chagrams. I think it would have been Jamaica, Barbados, Guyana, and Trinidad and Tobago were the earliest members that signed on. So the relationship has always been there. Guyana has always been a source for us of sugar, and this is raw sugar, brown sugar as we know it, and more than ever, rice. And so the trade, as it is now, they are our most important trading partner. And why? And I can give you some of the numbers. It's because we are also exporting energy fuels to them as well. And so in addition to, even though if you look at the non-energy side, I think Jamaica would be our biggest partner, but overall trade, Guyana is our number one trading partner, with trade in our favor. And so we would export to them products like diesel oil, motor spirit, kerosene, urea, and so on. Much of that through Paria. Paria would be the number one exporter of these energy products to Guyana. But apart from that, of course, would be all of the other foods that we are exporting, including our cereals and our beverages, and all of the other our sauces, all the other products that we produce in Trinidad and Tobago, most of them go into Guyana, including cigarettes and that kind of thing. So all of our snacks, etc. So they are a very, very important trading partner. But more than ever, as we talk about this expo, the importance is that Guyana has vast land space, which Trinidad and Tobago does not have. And there, of course, is a synergy for CARICOM in that Guyana now can be a producer of of primary products in the main. Guyana has the ambition to also do more manufacturing and processing, but Trinidad and Tobago has been involved in the manufacturing and the agro-processing sector for a longer time, and therefore we have the skills, we have the plant and machinery on ground already. But the idea is that the synergies will be created with Guyana being more or less the large primary producer, but Trinidad and Tobago, we would be inviting investments in processing. So that's the trading relationship, which will morph into the wider relationship of along the value chain of production and processing. And again, at the end of the day, ensuring that among ourselves, we trade among ourselves in the region, and then less of the extra regional goods. I don't think we could do without it. That's why we say 25 by 2025. But at the same time, the focus has to be there, and it will be there on expanding our trading relationship, not only with Guyana, but with the rest of the region, because what we have is a platform which came out of, and let me give President Finale the credit for the one who came up with this 2025, reducing the food import bill by 25% by 2025, and it is that.
But I want to get into the logistics of that when we return from this break, because I don't want to have to try to cut you in the middle of it. But we return to this conversation in just a moment. Stay with us. We're speaking with Minister Paula Gopee-Scoon. We return with more. Welcome back. We are going in depth on the trade, investment, industry side of things. The jump off point or the premise was the recently held Agri Expo, and we're speaking with Minister Paula Gopee-Scoon. And just before I cut you, Minister, you were giving kudos, so I'll allow you to expand on that. Thank you.
Within CARICOM, there are heads of government which are responsible for the different areas of development or oversight. And it is that President Finale is the lead head with responsibility for food, agri-diversification, and food security. So it emanated, this whole question of 25 by 25 emanated from a proposal presented by President Finale, and which was accepted by the heads, and of course, which we want the private sector and the population to buy into. So that's where I was. But I want to, if you would allow me, to give a little bit of the progress that has been made on the processing side, and some of which we saw at the exhibition. And of course, everybody got samples, including me. And as we talk about innovation, I want to show you in particular 2 products which were produced right here in Trinidad and Tobago, processed. This is an instant callaloo mix, and I think within in a few minutes you can actually have callaloo. And it would have been made from all of our ingredients, our locally produced ingredients. And there's also the instant dal and a number of other, I mean, I couldn't really take all their products. So this is the instant dal as well, which is quite a hit. Again, made with imported split peas though, but with all of our pimentos and jeera and so on included in it. It's quite tasty. There are a number of other products from the region. And for instance, there was the beef pepper pot, and it was good to see this in this form. Normally, what we would buy as Trinidadians, if we wanted to make our pepper pot, would be the casserole from Guyana. Guyana has been very innovative again in producing a different form of casserole, which just requires some 2 minutes of preparation time, instant and innovative. And of course, there was also from our own DEFCO, the production of cassava flour. We've been talking about flour a lot and the price of flour, and looking at the health value proposition as well. And this is cassava flour produced by DEFCO. And of course, there were the usual fries and so on, but these are sweet potato by Avril, and I think they'll pay me now. So there's sweet potato, plantain, cassava fries, etc. And that's the kind of thing that got our population excited. and inform them about the choices that they now have in choosing products that are truly local, but also more nutritious.
And even to add to that, Minister, one of the things like that first set of offerings that you showed, I believe the packaging is also done locally by the pouch company, and it is fresh. It looks crisp. It grabs the eye.
It's world class. It is world class, and it's a kind of packaging and product that will certainly find its place extra regionally. So you're talking here about an export product, which emanated from Trinidad and Tobago, truly innovative, and would find itself probably on a Whole Foods shelf, right, in throughout the US and so on. So a lot to happen, not just to feed ourselves, but also to export. Especially to our diaspora markets and those wholesalers and so on who are really looking for novel products, niche products from the Caribbean.
But it's one thing, Minister, to say, okay, well, we're going to penetrate these markets. We are going to find our people where they are in the diaspora. But outside of that, what are some of those things that need to be done to make trade a little easier? So those trade agreements that we can say, okay, well, product X to bring it into this place, these are some of the challenges that can be dealt with. What is work on that front happening like?
Well, I'll tell you, so there are existing trade agreements bilaterally with several Latin American countries, and we're also working on Chile, but there are also regional trade agreements that we've signed with CARICOM, which and let's see the USA, Canada, also Europe and the UK and so on. And all those exist, but we have to put them to work. And the way that we can do that is through our trade missions. But before even I talk about trade missions, through our e-commerce platforms, which we want to encourage, and which Export TT is assisting with co-financing with, especially the small merchandisers, small ones. We are assisting with setting up their websites, and of course, playing an integral role in terms of e-commerce platforms. But that apart, through our trade missions. But the other thing that we'll be doing is through our missions throughout, and I say it's through our embassies throughout the world. And it is our intention and we are looking very closely at it now to send out commercial attaches to, let's say, London and the USA and Jamaica and Panama and so on. We're looking at that closely now because we feel that we need to have people on the ground to assist with developing the export market and being a liaison between the exporters here in Trinidad and Tobago and finding the right distributors in those countries, and generally assisting with commercial diplomacy, which has been absent in the last few years. So that's a key area of focus with directing trade and investment within from Trinidad and Tobago and other extra-regional and regional countries as well.
Thank you so much. And in the last 2 minutes that we have, is one thing to facilitate the trade, have the agreements, but at the same time, what is being done locally to change the mind, the set a little bit, so that we look forward to having these products that are local, that are regional? I remember you spoke about the amount of forex being bled out of the country for potato fries. So what are some of those things that are happening?
That very same company, Novo, is now producing. This is the one who did the dal, instant dal, callaloo, and so on. They are also doing, and other processors are also coming in, but they're doing, for instance, the cassava fries, which is a good replacement, but sweet potato fries, dasheen fries. And whilst they may be a little bit expensive now, and the reason for that is because of the levels of production. What we want to encourage is the higher levels of production, and that will bring economies of scale, and of course will lower the cost for the consumer. So the focus is on assisting in any which way, through grants, through our facilities, which we have made available to through the local banks, the financing facilities. But the focus has to be assistance with finance, assistance with marketing through Export TT as well, and through the ministry. And again, it's grant facilities as well. And that's ensuring that in every which way we close the gap, and to ensure that micro business can grow, which micro business, which is perhaps average, can grow into a small business, into a medium-sized business. But again, that expo, I suppose, was about transforming the consumer's mind into buying local products. And Prime Minister made the statement last night at a meeting that this would be an annual event, this agri expo, and focusing on agriculture and agro-processing, but it will be an annual item on our agenda. So again, getting this consumer to buy into purchasing local goods, local foods, healthier foods, because whilst we may want to reduce the food import bill, food nutrition is also a most important item on the agenda for CARICOM and for Trinidad and Tobago.
And I think with 30,000 people in just a few days, I think we're at a tipping point of sorts in the right direction. So we want to thank you so much, Minister, for your time. And on behalf of the entire TTT News team, this has been In Depth with me, Dike Rostant. Thank you so much for joining us.